Another day, another fucking Volkswagen. Nah, same Volkswagen. Um, so yeah, I don't know where we ended last time, really specifically, but it wasn't just the valves that are wrong with it. That is definitely part of the problem, majorly, but we also have some piston ring issues on cylinder number 4. So what I was thinking of doing is I was gonna just do cylinder number 4 and say, F it, but I think I just want to do it all since I'm in here. All right, so we're draining the oil. This is probably a good time to maybe go get a snack, go take a shower, go get something to eat, go get tools or anything that you need pretty much, because you're going to be taking off the oil pan and exposing the crank, potentially taking crank out, depending on what you're doing. Right now we're just going to try and just do the piston ring, so hopefully the bearings and stuff are good. You're going to be in here and oil is going to be consistently dripping, not just from one hole, but from all the way across the entire engine. So you're going to want to make sure to let this drain out as much as possible. Obviously, once you take the pan off, you can go ahead and hit it with some brake clean, which I need to go get some. And then, obviously wear safety glasses once you're up in here, but you shouldn't have to do too much. I am going to have to take off this crank pulley and some other things because I messed up. All right, so what do I mean by I messed up? So, as you can see, this is the crank pulley. It is a timing belt engine, so this is the serpentine belt right here, which we can just go ahead and take out because we're going to be going way past that. And basically, I got to take off this pulley, and there's a little cover, if you can see, this little lower timing cover. I have to take this off because I dropped the washer right up inside here behind this pulley. So, you know how that goes. When you take this off, notice that there's 2 keys. I believe it only goes on one way if you do it like this. I believe this is for a different engine, for a different country. But nonetheless, always good to keep a reference. Want to make sure what you're looking at, the orientation that it's at, and everything, and all that good stuff. But yeah, I'll go ahead and once I get this stuff a little bit more torn apart, I'll kind of show you guys. I've never seen this plastic cover on the oil pan before. They act like that's gonna do anything, but I don't know. I guess maybe it might. All right, so we got the pulley off, we got the cover off, and we didn't even have to drop the motor mount or anything, which is pretty chill. But I don't see the piece that I dropped, and that concerns me. I found it on the floor. All right, so we got it all prepped pretty much. Just waiting on the rest of the oil to drain. I'm stoked I didn't have to do anything with this motor mount, so it should be fairly simple. Gonna pop these guys out from the top, and then see what's wrong with them, clean them up, clean up these cylinders, cylinder bores, whatever you want to call them, cylinder walls. All right, it wouldn't be a true day working on a European car if we didn't have some issues. So if you have an 8-valve 2-liter, I totally forgot about this until I got to them, but you see how there's some bolts in the pan? I mentioned it, or in the bell housing, I mentioned this earlier. Well, Volkswagen decided to put this at a crazy angle. So you would think normally you would have to, because look at that, this is how you go in, this is straight. It is tucked up essentially right here. So you would think you'd have to pull the trans, right, or at least slide it over. But if you go get these special wobbly, like long wobble ball end Allen keys, it's 5mm. You can actually get those off. This is the tool you need. You can get any of them. There's some with handles. It's just a 5mm. But you just want that ball end because you basically got to come into it at this angle, like maxed out on the oil pan. It's ridiculous. But we got them loose. And so I just got to do these 3, and then this guy should pop off. All right. Oil pan is off. All the bolts are there. Now, we're in the belly of the beast. Dipstick. Boing. Anyways, so got some stuff to remove. We're going to take off this cover. There's like a little baffle here. I'm assuming this is just usually to keep oil from sloshing in the crank because that'll aerate it and cause air bubbles. And then this guy doesn't get to pick up your oil. And that's no good. That's your oil pickup tube. That goes directly to the oil pump right here. So I'm assuming, since this is on a chain, I'm assuming I take off the sprocket and then take off this chain, drop the oil pump down, vice versa. Or I might be able to get lucky, drop this oil pump and then swing it down and then just kind of swing it back up into place. Haven't figured out how I'm going to do it yet. I'm going to look a little bit harder. All right, so we got the oil pump off. So this cover is actually just bolted with it on one of the bolts. So this cover came off, and then one more bolt and this came off. This you have to take off first to get the sprocket off. It's a T45. It is not reverse threaded. Unlike BMWs, my BMW boys know those reverse threaded oil pump sprockets. This is not that. This is regular thread. You will snap that shit clean in half if you try to righty loosey it. But anyways, now we are down to the root cause. We're gonna go through and all these, we're gonna pop these off, look at the bearings, and kind of go from there. 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, so we took out piston number 4. This was the low compression one. This was the problem child. So starting just with the bearings, I don't see anything that warrants, any excessive wear. I mean, granted, it did have 200,000 miles. I think that line in the middle is just like a part of like how it was cast or something, because you can't feel anything with your fingers, and that's kind of my test. Like if your fingernail, obviously without a glove, but if your fingernail doesn't catch on anything, and if you don't see any major like hot spots or like where like the coating got wore through or shit like that, I'd say it's pretty good. That's the top side. Obviously this is the bottom side with the cap. Yeah, this looks, I'd say, fantastic for 200,000 miles, honestly. Looks really good. Inside the piston as well, we got some, just some grime or from whatever the fuck, but otherwise it looks great. It's, it's smooth. It doesn't look janky. Yeah, then we come up here to the piston rings, and I haven't looked too deep yet because I was busy, setting this shit up and cleaning everything off and stuff, but I'm sure I'll find some type of issue, but nonetheless, I think I'm just going to go ahead and put new rings on this anyways, on all 4 cylinders. Just basically do a full rebuild just because why the fuck not, honestly. I got to run down to my local parts store, Halsey Imports. Shout out those guys. I got to go get some exhaust gaskets for the M54 swap D36 because I don't know where I put them and it needs them. So get that, then the exhaust will be squared away on that car. Won't have to do too much otherwise. And yeah, so I'll kind of get back to you guys once I dig a little bit deeper and once I figure out what I'm going to do with this. I decided to just do cylinder 4 just because I don't want to, if it ain't broke, don't fix it type beat. These ones didn't have any piston ring or oiling issues. So I'm just going to kind of press my luck and see what's going on. I should do it while I'm in here, but I don't want to spend $500 on an engine that I don't know anything about and haven't driven. We ordered the piston rings for cylinder number 4. Those should be here next week. We are going to take apart this head hopefully tomorrow and get the valves out and potentially try and do like a slight little reseat by ourselves, just kind of try and break up, see how bad they are. But if there's just like a little crusty or whatever, just try and clean them up and try and reseat them themselves and see if we can get, just get them to do something. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. Yeah, and then we're gonna go from there, and hopefully within the next week or so we should be driving this so that I can get back to the thing that everybody wants to see, the 4-cylinder turbo beamer motor. So I'm gonna get the rods in there, put the new head gasket on, new head bolts, new everything, new gaskets, and then that's going back in the E46 once this thing gets out of my garage. All right, we got a new mic finally. Thank you, Amazon. But I don't know where this video is going to start, where this specific one is going to continue off of. I started making one yesterday with some of the stuff that I was doing with this, but wasn't really too happy with it, so I don't know if you guys are even going to see any of that. But nonetheless, right now I'm taking out the valve springs from the 8-valve 2-liter Mark IV. I don't have the special tool for it yet. I will need that to reinstall it. I can show you guys a quick little trick that I actually got from my dad on how to remove these without a special tool, just using a socket and a hammer. Also, very key, when you do take everything apart out of the head, always keep everything together from where they came from. Cylinder number 4, always label that, cylinder 3, etc. Right now I just got all the stuff out of cylinder 2, and that's going to be the retainers right here. These are what hold the spring down, and then this is the I can't even think of what they're, the lockers or whatever. These basically keep this retainer in place that keep it from shooting off once the spring is set inside of here. All right, so basically how my dad told me a good little hack trick way to do this. It's good to have a tennis ball down below it, because sometimes if you hit it too hard, the valve can shoot out, and obviously you can see it doesn't have a lot of room to move. And if it hits the ground or something hard, there is a chance that you could bend that, especially with the force needed to hit it when you hit it with the hammer. So what we do is we set it on a tennis ball, and that just kind of gives it something like cushiony to kind of, if it does have to hit it, it's not gonna, it can kind of hit it and bounce back and stay in its place. And it also puts a little bit of tension on this, so when you do hit these retainers down, they actually compress the spring instead of just physically pushing the valve down. All right, now I'm gonna show you. Once you get those out, I already got this, the cylinder 2s out. I was just showing you guys. You want to pull these out slowly because you don't want to damage the valve stem seal. And you can see they have these little grooves. Those sit inside the seals, and then the grooves are what these lockers grab onto to hold the valve into place. Hopefully you guys saw that. That was the intake valve. Now we pull out the exhaust valve, and it is a good idea when you reinstall these to lube up those grooves because they aren't tapered. And my dad says that sometimes it can chew up those valve seals, so I didn't know that. So now we all learned something. But got that out. Now we can flip it down to cylinder 1, and we can finish the job on this guy. So I used the 21 for this engine. You want something that's going to sit basically as flush over the whole retainer as possible, because you want to give it as much room for these lockers to pop out, and also you want to have an even compression on it. Otherwise it can cockeye and, you know, damage the walls, like the lining for the lifters and all that shit. So you want to just find something that fits your application. For mine, it happened to be a 21, literally perfectly. So we line it up. I use an extension just because I didn't like having my fingers down here. I kept hitting it on the cam studs. So just line it up and give it a good old whack. Nope, not hard enough. There we go. Sometimes they are just a pain in the ass. Okay, well, I'm gonna set this off to the side. I was supposed to bag up cylinder 2, but I didn't. So that was my fault. So, boom. You can see we got our little locker there. Pull the spring out. All the springs are the same on this engine from intake to exhaust. Got one. That might have been 2, actually. Nope. There she blows. Come on, old Bessie. I'm actually doing an upgrade from the stock valve springs. So these have single valve springs, which the older heads for these engines had dual, which is better for what I'm doing. So I'm doing dual valve spring conversion kit. So that gives me dual valves. So one of these will have an inner spring inside of it, gives it a little bit more tension, better for high revving or high RPM revs. And it'll also give me new ones of these to seat both springs as well. I'm going to be keeping the lockers from the factory ones, just because I don't see any damage on them yet, and they seem to be working. So, also, the reason I am upgrading to this for higher revs and for other durability reasons, I ordered a 276 cam for this, but instead of the street one, I did the turbo one, so it has a little bit more valve overlap. It's gonna have a nice lumpy idle. It's gonna be great for that like low to mid range start of that turbo spool, and it's just gonna give me everything from 3K to 7K. It's gonna give me full power, full boost. It's never gonna drop off, so it's gonna be a great cam to have in here. So I'm very, very excited for that. thank you for watching, y'all. Sorry the outro is a little bit weird. I had a different one filmed, but decided to scrap like half of that video and make the one that you're watching right now. So it's a few minutes longer than normal, but I feel like there's some pretty good information for people that, maybe aren't too comfortable with, digging into their cars, even, a simpler engine like the 8 valve. So yeah, thank you again. Like, subscribe, comment, let me know your thoughts. What do you want to see? If you have any questions, whatever. But yeah, all right, y'all, stay friendly.